is the biggest question everyone has, and I think for the first time in history, everyone has become a scientist, which is actually also very exciting for us. So, so what happened due to the coronavirus pandemic? We reached a stage whereby there was no choice but to have the lockdowns. Started with the hard lockdowns, and then they were eased as we go. And obviously, we didn't have any other means but to hide away from the vaccine and stop movement. So at some stage, here's my cartoon, which says, say they've all retreated to their homes, what now? And then the other one says, we wait for a few hours for they will get bored. And that's exactly what became of us. Most of us were in lockdown. We started fidgeting. We started getting restless. We started wanting this and wanting that. As human beings, we are not really used to being confined in a space. So this is what happened. And as time went by, obviously, our economy was getting affected. And we had no choice but to ease the lockdown. And obviously, as we started easing the lockdown, this is what happened. We started having a large number of deaths. And that also became disturbing. We didn't want to go back to the lockdown level 5. And we all started shouting, please hurry up, scientists, we want the vaccine. So that became the next motto. We needed the scientists to hurry up with the vaccine. So that happened, clinical trials were done, and I really want to speak to AstraZeneca a little bit more because that's the vaccine which we got yesterday, and that's the vaccine which I know very well has been on trial. I've also looked at all the information or scientific information. I cannot divulge the details, but we have trials going on in South Africa, which is also very good to have your population included in the trials. So AstraZeneca worked together with the Oxford University, and they came up with this vaccine, and they did very well. I'll explain to you some of the answers as to why it was so soon, because I think once we got the vaccine, then we started asking again, but why so soon? No, this can't be. Vaccines should take years. I would hear all those complaints, but what we are forgetting is what I'm going to explain later. So their vaccines arrived. We all heard it was AstraZeneca vaccine. There was a bit of confusion. Some people thought it was an Indian vaccine. No, what manufacturers, companies do, they develop the vaccine or whatever drug, and then they contract a manufacturer who can be anywhere in the world. But us as SAPRA, we need to make sure that manufacturer is compliant with what we call good manufacturing practices. So we were helped with the Serum Institute of India, chosen by AstraZeneca. And this is why we got it from India. It's not an Indian vaccine. It's an AstraZeneca vaccine manufactured in India. So when it arrived, people started asking again, what about J&J vaccine? When is it coming? Some even wanted the Pfizer vaccine. When is it coming? So really, as human beings, again, we are never satisfied. And I think, let me maybe start off with exactly the business of the day, and as far as my topic is concerned. I will talk to you a little bit about old vaccines, and then make you understand why we have these new vaccines and why they come up so soon in very simple layman's terms. And then the envisaged rollout of the vaccines and the challenges we might face in South Africa. So this is the coronavirus. If you look at it, it's a big ball. It's a ball with some spikes on it. And I want you to remember these spikes on the virus, because those protein spikes are very important in terms of the spread of the disease. They are the ones which actually really propel the disease from one population to another at a fast rate. So those spikes are very important, and I want you to remember them as we go. So in general, how do vaccines work? All vaccines, it doesn't matter how they are prepared, or developed, all vaccines produce what we call an immune response in your body. So the vaccines, when introduced into your body, they establish a little army of antibodies. So this is an army, it's a group of soldiers we call antibodies in scientific terms, so that when you're exposed to the coronavirus itself, the army recognizes this as a foreign body and destroys it. So you need to develop antibodies, and those antibodies are specific to coronavirus if you have been vaccinated. And when you're exposed to the coronavirus, then the armies come to force and recognize that foreign body, and off they go to destroy it. Now, when we talk of old vaccines, so we talk of these methods where we have what we call live attenuated vaccines. So what are these? These are the, so here they take the pathogen or the microbe, and then they weaken it so that it does not cause disease. It's not supposed to cause disease, but remember it's live, it's just weakened. And that pathogen may sometimes mutate or even regain the ability to cause the disease again. So that's the danger of the old live attenuated vaccines. Let's remember that. And then we have the killed or inactivated vaccines. These may not always induce the required level of immune response that you were expecting. That's one advantage. And their response may not be long-lived. So those are some of the advantages. And I think there are quite a number of reports where people experience severe adverse reactions. And let me be honest with you, there is no medicine or vaccine which does not produce side effects. So new vaccines, how are they developed? So what we have learned now as scientists is that you can actually take a component of the virus itself, not the whole virus, just a piece of it. And in as far as the AstraZeneca virus, which we got yesterday, what the scientists did is they took the spike protein. Remember the spikes I showed you earlier on? They took those spike proteins, then they injected those spikes into another virus. So that virus which received the spikes is what we call a vector. And in this case, it's an adenovirus that has been modified to be harmless to human beings. So this vector acts as a carrier that takes the spike protein into your body during vaccination and then tells your body that I'm here, and then the body says, hang on, foreign body, and then it produces the antibodies. So the body recognizes this as a foreign body and builds antibodies that will attack the coronavirus after exposure. Now, with regards to the Pfizer one, which a lot of people are singing about because they've heard that it's 95% effective, they use a different technique where they use what we call messenger RNA. I'm not going to go into those details. It's just, remember, it's a little set of instructions that is injected into your body to build up your immunity. Our AstraZeneca vaccine requires 2 jabs, and it's important that you get the second jab. And yesterday I was actually thrilled to hear that you can actually delay receiving the second dose by up to 12 weeks. And by doing so, you actually get up to more than 80% efficacy by doing that, because the current knowledge we had, the knowledge we had from the previous trials was just 70%. So why so soon? How come we got these viruses, the vaccine so soon? This is what everyone is asking now. But we are forgetting that we are in an era of technology. So these advanced technologies to sequence the virus and learn more about the components of the virus, how it replicates in the body, and what it is composed of. These things actually were very useful. And because of that knowledge, we could afford to actually shorten some of the animal study phases to establish safety. Because when you're developing a vaccine, you start with animal studies, and when you establish safety, then you move on to human studies. So the quick reviews, we also piggybacked on available science and existing knowledge about other vaccines and viruses that are in the same class. And this is very true when it comes to some of these viruses and some of these vaccines that we are developing. We have had some vaccines before which are being studied for HIV and other things, and we are piggybacking on that knowledge. So some of them are not really de novo there. We are piggybacking on some of the previous knowledge, and this is why things are moving faster. Understanding how the disease spreads using computerized disease simulation models. This is very high tech. It uses computerized methods, combining results from all those studies which were done in animals, which were done in the lab, and filling in some gaps in existing knowledge to make sure that, you know, we move faster. So this is exactly what was happening. And because our world has become one global village due to internet, we are having Zoom meetings now instead of going all the way to our club. You know, we managed to talk to the rest of the world, find out what is going on, participate in some of the science, scientific research, and participate in clinical trials. So all this has really enabled us to work. Just hold on. Fari washike ndipa presentation. Just hold on a second. Okay. And we were able to share scientific knowledge globally and easily as well. And one other thing which I've also noticed is that it wasn't really so difficult to recruit people to join these clinical trials. People were willing to participate, which is also a positive to us. So the president received 1 million doses. We are receiving 500,000 doses again during the course of the month. So this is the AstraZeneca one. And then we are also getting 12 million doses from COVAX. And then we also have Aspen. I think you all have heard of Aspen. They are local manufacturers, and they are going to be producing, once everything is okay, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is actually a Janssen one. And then we'll get 20 million doses from the Pfizer one. And I'm not very excited about Pfizer because I know some of you have been complaining about power now, and it requires storage conditions of minus 70 degrees. You can imagine what could happen in rural areas. And then private companies will supply the rest of the doses as well as we go. So the distribution strategy which we are applying, I am really urging people, and I really quote and unquote what Reagan says, that coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And in this case, we really need to work together and pool our resources to build our strengths, and accomplish, this venture. It's very important that we reach the herd health, the herd immunity, which we are aspiring for. We need to work together. There's nothing like a provincial herd immunity. It doesn't work. It has to be population of South Africa, if not the region, if not the continent. And that way we will win the war against the virus. And it's important that we also understand why procurement has to be central. Government must do it. And there are very good reasons why only government should be allowed to do this process. I know lots of suggestions, but it doesn't work from our experience as regulators. The government uses reputable suppliers who are practicing good manufacturing practices. They make sure tests are done after importation by our National Control Lab. We also monitor and maintain the cold chain during the process of distribution, and we make sure there's fair distribution. This vaccine cannot be for those who afford, who have money, and leave out those who are disadvantaged. And this is why the government is subsidizing and asking the medical aids and private companies to assist so that we get free vaccines. And one good thing about this government being involved is that we have a pharmacovigilance system where we are able to trace all these adverse events and also trace who has been vaccinated and make sure they comply by making sure they get the second dose. So prioritization will be according to risk. And the president emphasized yesterday that nobody will be given this vaccine against their will, nor will the vaccine be administered in secret or in some dark corners. That's very important. So in phase one, healthcare workers, they are busy registering now, including my daughters. I saw them busy trying to register and asking me, in which region are we? Because they're supposed to get to the nearest clinic for vaccination. Frontline workers in phase two, including people with comorbidities and those above 60 years of age. And then the rest of us will follow, but considering the number of doses that are coming, I think even that phase three is going to be fast-tracked. So finally, what are the potential challenges? There is reluctance to take vaccines by certain groups who have religious beliefs known to themselves, and some of them is just mere ignorance. They don't understand this. And then we have those who are campaigning against vaccines and others who just, have traditional beliefs that they won't take it. And then on TV, I was so hurt to see some people, say crying and, because they don't have IDs. So this has to be sorted out by Home Affairs, otherwise they won't get the vaccine. We need a steady and timely supply of these vaccines to reach population immunity, not provincial immunity. And we need to maintain the cold chain, and with all these challenges with ESCOM, and then with rural electrification or non-electrification, and so we need to really be careful how we go about the rollout. And then in terms of compliance, we need to make sure people get the booster on time. They should also understand that adverse reactions are going to happen so that they don't refuse to come back for the second dose. And we should be careful not to relax the COVID protocols too early. Otherwise, we are going to have a resurgence of another wave. Vaccine theft and corruption, that needs to be really watched out for. And then we should encourage people to report adverse reactions. I know it is a very difficult thing for people to understand, but this should really be encouraged. Now, the biggest fear we have is, what if a new variant that is resistant to the current vaccines emerges? What are we going to do? But as scientists, we don't stop researching. We carry on asking questions. We've already started asking that question and watching out for that possibility. And I think one of the things which David will agree with me is we definitely need a cure. So please get vaccinated to get our freedom back. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. Maybe we can have a couple of questions before we go on to the next speaker, or comments. Ian, go ahead. Yes, Ian,
yes,
go ahead.
I would just like to say that was really straightforward and a very good presentation, and thank you very much. The biggest question is the story about people reacting to the vaccine. Why do they not want to take the vaccine? Is there science on that?
I think I want to be honest with you. It's not just this vaccine. Are you aware that there are people who don't even vaccinate their own kids currently? Who, when it's time to go to school, they start panicking because most schools ask for the vaccination card. And we have come across such people. And it's usually religious beliefs. And of course, what has happened of late, which was also very interesting, because I think the surveys show that everyone at one stage, I think you saw from my last, most people really wanted the vaccines to come because they were sick and tired of the lockdowns, and we had no cure, and we knew people were dying. And then conspiracy theories started. And that's why I'm saying, these guys, they speak a lot and with so much certainty as if they know everything, and try and convince people. And you imagine when someone gets to you first and scares you about something, then it becomes a problem.
It's fine.
Yes.
Okay. No, it's all right. Peter had a question.
Thank you, David. Wonderful talk. Thank you, Alice.
Pleasure.
Even I could understand it. Just one question, Alice, regarding the rollout. Alice, regarding the rollout, are discussions taking place with the private sector to help with the rollout? And you know what
Yes.
I see are companies like Clicks, who have pharmacies all over South Africa. Are those the sort of companies government's talking to?
Yes. So yesterday also when I was watching TV, I also realized that there's a lot going on behind the scenes with regards to participation of the private sector. And I also looked at the list from the sites which are already registered so far, because initially I thought we were going to use government hospitals. And from the list which I saw this afternoon, I saw a lot of Clicks pharmacies, Discam, clinics. It's a lot of places that are going to be used. But there is some private public sector partnership to assist with even the training of some of the people who are going to assist with the vaccination and awareness. And I think a lot of money has been invested by the private sector into that as well.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, thank you.